Hello everybody, welcome or welcome back. Please like, share, and subscribe, and comment if you find this intriguing or rage-inducing or informative, entertaining. Let me know in the comments what you think. So in the last video, we were discussing a whole bunch of stuff that probably pisses off the anti-racists, so-called, and now we're going to talk about some more stuff that pisses off so-called anti-racists. Egalitarianism. Many writers claim that Caucasoid values are egalitarian, assigning equal intrinsic worth to all men, although not, of course, all deeds. Obviously, a sweeping renunciation of all interpersonal comparisons removes racial comparisons with it. While my main concern is what Caucasoid values are, not what anyone thinks they should be, egalitarianism seems wrong descriptively as well as prescriptively. Let us begin with Rosenfeld's, quote, "Postulate of equality, the normative proposition that all individuals are morally equal as individuals. This proposition is counterfactual in the sense that it does not depend for its validity on any empirical proof of the existence of particular descriptive equalities." End quote. Is this postulate actually embraced by anyone? In order to say whether people are equal, you need to determine first what we're talking about, what qualities we're talking about, by what dimension, by what metric are we saying people are equal? Because there are so many aspects of a person that you could say are equal or not equal. People could be equal in intelligence, but not equal in height. Or vice versa. People could be equal in height, but not intelligence. What are we talking about? You could say that a computer is equal to a phone in RAM or storage, but not in weight. Is my phone equal to a couch? Maybe in price. Is it equal to a building? It's kind of hard to say by what metric my phone could be said to be equal to a building. So saying that people are equal and just leaving it at that is pretty absurd. Equal how? Equal by what metric? Is this postulate actually embraced by anyone? Good question. It might be accepted in words by those who believe that God gave everyone a soul of infinite worth, although this belief would have to be distinguished from the assertion in the Declaration of Independence that, quote, "all men are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights," end quote, which affirms equality of rights, not worth. But once again, we must look beyond verbal assent to behavior, and to judge by people's actions, no one, not even an egalitarian, values all men equally. Whatever anyone professes, he prefers certain kinds of people to others. No one is indifferent to the company he keeps. No egalitarian would say his children turned out equally well if one grew up to be like Socrates and the other like Charles Manson. Nor would anyone have much trouble saying what descriptive traits make Manson the less attractive. Right after purportedly divorcing normative from descriptive equalities, Rosenfeld acknowledges, perhaps inadvertently, the role of empirical criteria in determining worth. Quote, "What is crucial in the context of liberal political thought are not descriptive equalities of race, physical strength and intelligence, and the like, but rather, as Amy Gutman indicates, a broadly conceived equal ability to abide by the law and choose a reasonable plan of life, as well as an equal capacity for self-respect and human dignity." End quote. Yet law-abidingness is a descriptive trait, and to say two individuals share it equally is to ascribe a descriptive equality, and to make an empirical claim. It can be proven true or not true. It is a plain matter of fact that some people are less law-abiding than others, and the racial disparity in crime rates implies that the races exhibit this trait to different degrees on average. Ability to choose a rational life plan and capacity for dignity, although very vague, are also descriptive and evidently vary among individuals. Prostitutes who exchange sexual favors for drugs presumably are relatively unconcerned about their dignity. Chapter 3 mentioned a reality-aspiration gap among blacks. Many black teenagers in interviews glibly report planning to be lawyers or surgeons. According to documentaries like Hoop Dreams and books like Last Shot, basketball is virtually the only interest of a large number of young black males sustained by the fantasy of a professional basketball career. The police officer who arrested the 8 rapists in the Central Park jogger case, when asked what they wanted to do with their lives, replied, quote, "Kids like that don't know what they'll be doing half an hour from now." End quote. Blacks seem on average less able to plan their lives rationally. Given Rosenfeld's own criteria, then, blacks and whites on average display unequal personal worth. A major motive for defending equal human worth is a desire to protect equality of rights, the promise of the Declaration of Independence. Like many thinkers, Tom Regan runs these quite separate issues together. Quote, "We must believe that all who have inherent value have it equally, regardless of their sex, race, religion, birthplace, and so on. Similarly, to be discarded as irrelevant are one's talents or skills, intelligence and wealth, personality or pathology, whether one is loved or hated, or despised and loathed. The genius and the retarded child, the prince and the pauper, the brain surgeon and the fruit vendor, Mother Teresa and the most unscrupulous used car salesman all have inherent value, all have it equally, and all have an equal right to be treated with respect, to be treated in ways that do not reduce them to the status of things." End quote. Seriously? Mother Teresa was a scumbag, by the way, so using her as the epitome of virtue is kind of silly, but let's pretend she's as saintly as she is portrayed for the purpose of illustration. Used car salesman is a rather limited notion of the utmost depth of depravity. One wonders whether Regan would also equate Mother Teresa with a child molester. Regan's main error, however, is that of taking the right not to be reduced to the status of a thing to depend on inherent value. Were there such a dependency, differences in worth would imply differences in rights, perhaps contrary to the Golden Rule. But rights can be separated from worth, as in fact they are in modern liberal societies. Nothing in the Golden Rule denies equal rights to people of very different inherent value. It harms no one to let everyone, whatever his worth, associate, worship, and speak freely. At the same time, rights are not completely independent of personal worth. Felons are deemed so worthless by others as to no longer deserve a full array of rights. Incarcerated thieves can no longer associate freely, and condemned murderers have lost their right to life. Even a man on death row cannot, of course, be used in medical experiments against his will, and no one in a modern Western society is ever reduced to the status of a thing by loss of all immunities. Nonetheless, common sense apportions rights by worth when behavior becomes bad enough. It is useless to argue that felons are, or may be, deprived of rights, but still are, or should be, regarded as equal in value to the next man. Deprivation of wrongdoers' rights on Golden Rule grounds is not difficult to understand. I, as a Kantian, must refrain from aggressive acts because I wouldn't want anyone aggressing against me. But may I, or my deputies, aggressively incarcerate or kill an aggressor? Well, I recognize that if I aggressed against someone, I could not, consistently with the Golden Rule, complain if he retaliated aggressively. In other words, I recognize that I would be willing to have others retaliate against me if I aggressed against them. Hence, when I let the justice system retaliate against aggressors in my name, I do nothing I wouldn't be willing to have done unto me. The Golden Rule accords everyone a right to equal treatment until he violates someone else's rights. Then a number of bets are off. Many egalitarians urging a universal right to respect cite Kant's endorsement of a duty to respect all rational nature. The idea they have in mind is fictitious and not sponsored by Kant. Respect, as colloquially understood, is esteem, which is thought to be earned by accomplishment or character. Equal respect for everyone in this sense is no part of anyone's moral code. The hardy mountaineer is respected more than the layabout. As for the right to respect, Kant deduces from the categorical imperative, it amounts to freedom from coercion, deception, manipulation, and like circumvention of one's will, the familiar negative rights others should respect. So basically, there's two definitions of respect, and Kant was not referring to the colloquial sense of respect, like I have a lot of respect for that person. He was referring to respect of one's rights, not of one's character. The ranking of individuals and groups goes uncontested in non-racial contexts. Let the reader imagine himself forced to choose between spending a month with a highly Kantian A or a far less Kantian B. A is more intelligent, cooperative, and restrained, less self-assertive, less inclined to respond angrily to disagreements, and to exempt himself from rules he wants you to follow. Kantian A's style is dispassionate, impersonal, and non-challenging, while B's is confrontational. All else equal, the reader would most certainly prefer to spend the month with A. He would regard himself as justified in so choosing, and by ordinary standards he would be justified. In this behavioral sense, he regards A as better than B. This preference does not commit him to concluding that B deserves fewer rights than A. He simply prefers A's company. I, as a racist, don't want to violate blacks' rights unless they think that being around white people is their right, which it is not. I don't think they should have less rights. I just want to live around whites. It is also indisputable in non-racial contexts that groups as well as individuals can differ with respect to valued traits. Because of empirical mean group differences, the reader can expect to value randomly chosen members of some groups more than those of others. Few egalitarians would have the effrontery to deny that the average minister has more qualities he admires than the average murderer. Generalize the thought experiment of the last paragraph to two villages, A and B, differing in average Kantianism. There is less violence in village A, more predictable behavior, more trust, and fewer confrontational personal interactions than in B. Village A's average IQ is higher. The reader forced to choose between spending a month in Village A or Village B would most certainly choose A, as I assume Rosenfeld, Gutmann, and Regan would also do. Once again, this preference just assigns a higher value to A, but does not imply a wish to restrict Village B's rights. White values are not superior to black values in an absolute sense. There is no warrant in the nature of things for caring about the personal attributes Caucasoids care about to the extent Caucasoids care about them. But some outlook must be assumed as we turn to substantive issues, and that outlook will be the Caucasoid outlook. If you want to live in a Caucasoid society, you have to abide by Caucasoid morality, and if you don't, then leave.